We'll tell you about the main news at 9 a.m. this Friday on TSN. We look forward to your comments on the broadcast and would appreciate your subscription. 11 people, including 4 children, were injured during the overnight attack on Sumy. The Russians carried out a series of strikes on residential areas and infrastructure. As a result of the strike on the 9-story building, 5 apartments and 7 balconies on the upper floors caught fire. 12 people were rescued. In the private sector, 2 outbuildings caught fire and the blast wave damaged a house with 5 apartments. A passenger depot was also hit. The company's facilities and rolling stock were damaged and destroyed. Railway infrastructure in the Lozovo-Husarivka area was affected. Ivano-Frankivsk is following a changed route. 1 person was killed and 5 were injured. The Russians attacked Kherson once again. After the artillery shelling, a severely wounded man died in the hospital. 4 more city residents who were also in the impact zone sustained injuries. A little later, the war criminals struck the hospital. A patient at the facility was injured by a fragment of an artillery shell that pierced the wall. More than 75 strikes. During the day, the enemy attacked 3 districts in the Dnipropetrovsk region. In the Nikopol district, 3 men were wounded. A private house caught fire and more were damaged. An apartment building and an agricultural enterprise were damaged. The occupiers struck Dnipro with a ballistic missile. An infrastructure facility was affected, and infrastructure in the Vasilkivska community in Sinelnikove district was also damaged. She was attacked by a drone. Explosion at the Ukrposhta sorting office in the capital. According to the carrier, during the inspection of parcels headed abroad, one of them exploded. 2 employees of the Kiev Customs Office and 3 other employees were injured. Ukrposhta. The sender was identified, and it turned out that this was not the only suspicious shipment from him. The rest have been discovered and the circumstances are being investigated. There will be less light today. Ukrenergo has reported that due to the difficult situation in the energy system, measures will be implemented around the clock in all regions of Ukraine. Restrictions on electricity consumption. At the same time, they promise to cut power to up to 3 groups at once. However, they advise keeping an eye on the information, as the timing and extent of the restrictions may change. All of this is due to the consequences of 3 massive Russian missile and drone attacks on the energy system this month. A 3-day mourning period has been declared in Ladyzhyn, Vinnytsia region. There, a 7-year-old girl died from wounds sustained during the Russian attack. 6 more adults were injured. The Russians struck the region with 90 drones and 23 cruise missiles. Critical infrastructure and civilian facilities were destroyed. In Ladyzhyn, there are disruptions to electricity, water, and heating supply. Technical water is being delivered to homes, and an alternative heating system is being launched.
In total, 23 residential buildings in the region were affected. The damage is very significant. In particular, a 2-story building where 21 people live was badly affected. At present, the residents have been evacuated, and commissions are conducting inspections to determine whether the building can be used further.
There was a strike on Burshtyn, a town in Carpathian. The Russians attacked it with missiles and drones the day before. Apartment buildings, private homes, and critical infrastructure were damaged. The city lost heating and hot water.
As a result of the massive missile and drone attack, Burshtyn was left without hot water and heating. Luckily, they say the schools are on vacation right now, and in the kindergartens and hospital, the radiators haven't had time to cool down completely.
For now, it's still warm outside, so we'll see how things go from here. I hope they'll fix it.
We'll survive. Of course we'll survive. Do we have a choice? It's nothing. We're Ukrainians. Everything will be fine. The Russian occupiers tried to destroy a critical infrastructure facility. The fire spread over an area of more than 400 square meters. But the rescuers managed to put out the fire quickly. More than 100 firefighters were working at the scene. 30 special vehicles were deployed. There are no fatalities or injuries. According to the mayor of Burshtyn, Vasil Andrieshin, the situation is under control.
The CHP plant itself is damaged and is currently out of operation. I know for sure that 4 units are damaged. The radiators haven't even cooled down yet, so it's necessary to turn on alternative heating sources, that is, stoves. There's no need.
But residents are being warned to be cautious. The enemy could have dropped something from Shaheds, cluster munitions. In Carpathian, hourly power outage schedules were introduced in the morning, but they were soon cancelled.
The former head of Ukrenergo Volodymyr Kudrytskyi was released on bail. The Pechursk District Court in the capital set bail at almost 14 million hryvnias, or 2 months of arrest, as a preventive measure. The State Bureau of Investigation suspects Kudrytskyi and Lviv businessman Hrynkevich of embezzling tens of millions of hryvnias allocated for the reconstruction of power system facilities 7 years ago. The prosecution requested that Kudrytskyi remain in custody for 2 months because he is the father of 3 young children and can freely leave the country. 4 members of parliament have expressed their willingness to vouch for the former head of Ukrenergo. One of them, Yaroslav Zhelezniak, explained that Kudrytskyi did not cause any losses to the state since the tender was conducted under a bank guarantee. And when Hrynkevich's company failed to fulfill its obligations, the bank returned the money to Ukrenergo. The advance payment amounted to over 13 million hryvnias. You are watching TSN. To stay up to date with the main news, subscribe to our YouTube channel and turn on notifications. And now I continue with the news. China will cooperate with the United States on the issue of Russia's war against Ukraine. The President of the United States made this statement following the first meeting in 6 years with the Chinese leader. Donald Trump and Xi Jinping held talks in South Korea. Before the start of the talks, the American president called his Chinese counterpart a friend, while the head of the PRC reminded that the precondition for their meeting was economic in nature. After all, earlier Trump had threatened to raise tariffs on trade with China by another 100%, but he abandoned these intentions. Xi also expressed hope that they would be able to cooperate for the good of both countries and the whole world. He also praised the US president for his contribution to peace in the Middle East and Asia. The war of Russia against Ukraine, as well as China's role as the largest buyer of Russian oil, also became topics of discussion.
The issue of Ukraine came up very strongly. We talked about it for a long time, and we will both work together to see if we can do something. We agree that the sides are bogged down in fighting. Sometimes you have to give them the opportunity to fight. But everyone is going to help us. And we will work together on the issue of Ukraine. There's nothing more we can do.
A fierce battle is underway in the parliamentary elections in the Netherlands. Pro-Ukrainian liberals and opponents of aid to our country have nearly matched each other in the number of seats won. Both political forces are getting 26 seats each in the lower house of parliament. Although the pro-Ukrainian party, Democracy 66, gained additional votes, the far-right Freedom Party, on the contrary, lost some. Other parties are also entering parliament, and ultimately they will have to form a coalition. The main intrigue is who will lead the government of the Netherlands. After all, political forces do not want to unite with the leader of the Freedom Party, Geert Wilders. It was he who broke up the previous coalition which led to the elections. Therefore, there is a chance that the process will be led by a party supportive of our country, Democracy 66. The final results of the vote will be tallied in just over a week. That's when coalition negotiations will begin. Russian Lukoil has found a buyer for its foreign assets. It will be the Gunvor company. Its co-founders, in addition to foreigners, include one of the Russian businessmen closest to Putin, Gennady Timchenko. After the annexation of Crimea, he sold his stake in the company to avoid sanctions. The US Department of the Treasury believes that at one time Putin himself had access to this company's assets. Meanwhile, the assets of another company that has come under US sanctions may be nationalized by Germany. Washington has exempted the German division of Rosneft from sanctions until April of next year. So now Berlin is considering whether to nationalize this asset. Fresh sentences for Russian spies. 3 suspects who hold both German and Russian citizenship were arrested before they could carry out acts of sabotage. The men were planning acts of sabotage, monitoring railway tracks and military transport, and gathering information about aid to Ukraine. All of this was intended to later sow fear among the population and try to stop support for our country. The main organizer of the spy network, Dieter S., was sentenced to 6 years in prison, not only for espionage and preparing acts of sabotage, but also for membership in a terrorist organization, the so-called Donetsk People's Republic. His accomplices were given suspended sentences of 1 year and 1.5 years. Germany is one of the largest suppliers of military aid to our country, so it's no surprise that Moscow is using every means possible to undermine this support. They attacked employees of the Territorial Recruitment Center and overturned their service bus. In Odesa, authorities are searching for the men who attacked the military personnel when, according to witnesses, they were trying to put a conscript into their bus. But they didn't have time to leave. A group of unknown individuals started smashing the bus windows and eventually overturned it onto its side. The employees of the Territorial Recruitment Center were also attacked. Some of them required medical assistance because batons and tear gas were used against them. The attackers managed to escape. Now their identities are being established using surveillance cameras. Everything was recorded. The Regional Territorial Recruitment Center confirmed this. Their employees who were performing their official duties were attacked. The incident is being regarded as an attempt to forcibly obstruct lawful mobilization activities. The video from the employees' body cameras has already been handed over to the investigative authorities to initiate criminal proceedings. New arrests have been made in the Louvre robbery case. In France, the arrest of 5 new suspects has been officially confirmed. In total, 7 people have now been detained. The search for the stolen jewels continues. The robbery of the Apollo Gallery in the Louvre, already being called the heist of the century, took place on October 19th. The thieves stole 8 precious items from the royal collection worth $100 million. It took the robbers less than 10 minutes to pull it off. Using a lift, the criminals ascended to the height of the 2nd floor of the museum, cut through a window with power tools, and after the theft escaped on motorcycles. After the incident, the museum transferred some of the valuables to the Bank of France for safekeeping. About 100 law enforcement officers were involved in the investigation, including from Germany and Interpol. At this moment, that was the latest report. Don't miss our upcoming TSN broadcast to stay informed about current events.